This is another sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. It's time for prophecy to be fulfilled. Trump warns North Korea. President Donald Trump has threatened to unleash fire and fury against North Korea if it endangers the United States, as tensions with the isolated and impoverished nuclear-armed state escalate into perhaps the most serious foreign policy challenge yet of his administration. In chilling language that evoked the horror of a nuclear exchange, Mr. Trump has sought to deter North Korea from any actions that would put Americans at risk. But it is not clear what specifically would cross his line. Administration officials have said that a preemptive military strike, while a last resort, is among the options they have made available to the president. North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States, Mr. Trump told reporters at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen, he said, referring to North Korea's volatile leader, Kim Jong-un. Mr. Trump said he has been very threatening beyond a normal state, and as I said, they will be met with fire and fury, and frankly, power the likes of which this world has never seen before. Undaunted, North Korea has warned that it was considering a strike that would create an enveloping fire around Guam, the western Pacific island where the United States operates a critical Air Force base. Will only the U.S. have option called preventive war, as is claimed by it, the Strategic Force of the North Korean People's Army, or KPA, said in a statement. It is a daydream for the U.S. to think that its mainland is an invulnerable heavenly kingdom. The U.S. should clearly face up to the fact that the ballistic rockets of the Strategic Force of the KPA are now on constant standby, facing the Pacific Ocean. Supporters suggested Mr. Trump was trying to get Mr. Kim's attention in a way that the North Korean would understand, while critics expressed concern that the American president could stumble into a war with devastating consequences. Again, Revelation chapter 16, verse 8, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. This is a more dangerous moment when faced by Trump's predecessors, said the chief executive of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a nonprofit group in Washington. The normal, nuanced diplomatic rhetoric coming out of Washington hasn't worked in persuading the Kim regime of American resolve. This language underscores that the most powerful country in the world has its own escalatory and retaliatory options. But Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California, said it would be counterproductive. President Trump is not helping the situation with his bombastic comments, she said in a statement. Senator John McCain, Republican of Arizona and chairman of the Armed Services Committee, also took exception. All it's going to do is bring us closer to some kind of serious confrontation, he told KTAR News Radio. North Korea has accelerated its progress toward a working nuclear-tipped missile force since Mr. Trump, who has vowed not to let that happen, took office. Last month, the North successfully tested for the first time an intercontinental ballistic missile that could reach the continental United States, the Washington Post has reported. But American intelligence agencies have concluded that North Korea has miniaturized a warhead that could fit on top of one of its missiles. The Japanese government also said in an annual threat assessment that it is possible that North Korea has already achieved the miniaturization of nuclear weapons and has acquired nuclear warheads. The United Nations Security Council has unanimously adopted a new sanctions resolution against North Korea, the 8th since the country conducted its first nuclear test in 2006. Backers of the resolution said the new sanctions would cut North Korea's meager annual export revenue by about a third, impeding its ability to raise cash for its weapons programs. The sanctions ban the import of coal, iron ore, lead ore, and seafood from North Korea. They also prohibit United Nations member nations from hosting any additional workers from the North above their current levels. Washington called the restrictions the most stringent set of sanctions on any country in a generation, but strong doubts remain over how rigorously China and Russia, the North's two neighboring allies, will enforce the sanctions. Even before Mr. Trump's comments, North Korea's militant response to the sanctions was the strongest indication yet that it could conduct another nuclear or missile test, as it is often done in response to past United Nations sanctions. Mr. Trump's fire and fury response echoed the kind of language the North Koreans themselves have used in the past. In the last few years, North Korean officials and the government news agency have repeatedly warned the United States and South Korea against any preemptive attack, with "sea of fire" a favorite phrase. After the United Nations vote, North Korea's state-run newspaper said, "The day the United States dares tease our nation with a nuclear weapon and sanctions, the mainland United States will be catapulted into an unimaginable sea of fire." In South Korea, some conservative politicians and analysts have called for the reintroduction of American tactical nuclear weapons to establish a balance of terror against the North. The United States withdrew nuclear weapons from the South in the early 1990s, but it occasionally sends nuclear-capable bombers and submarines in exercises. But President Moon of South Korea warned against military action. Above all, President Moon emphasized that South Korea can never accept a war erupting again on the Korean Peninsula, his office said in a statement describing a 56-minute phone call with Mr. Trump. He stressed that the North Korean nuclear issue must be resolved in a peaceful, diplomatic manner through a close coordination between South Korea and the United States. Again, this is the warning. Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river, Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings and leaders of the east might be prepared. Yes, it's time for prophecy to be fulfilled. And all these are more signs. This is what I see, feel, think, and discern. Again, this is the warning.